It's out to deck. How you doing, guys?
Thank you.
It's like watching a film, but then all of a sudden we're in a film.
Roughly 5,000 metres above sea level. To give you an idea, that's about 700 metres on top of Kilimanjaro.
Gracious cycle still going.
Hi everyone, we are Craig and Amy and we run our YouTube channel Kinging It, where we document all of our challenges around the world. So when we came home last year, a few years ago actually, one of our friends told us about the 2018 Mongol Rally, and then we knew that that was our next big challenge.
Just going to load up the slideshow for you guys now. So what is the Mongol Rally? So basically it's a charity race across the world, and there's only 3 rules. So the first rule is your car's got to be small and rubbish. The second rule is you're basically on your own. There's no numbers to call if you're in trouble. You can't ring your mum because you can't really do much if you're in the back end of nowhere. And the third rule is that it's to raise money for Cool Earth, which is a global warming charity. And we also decided to raise money for Click Sergeant and Big Moose, which are charities that mean quite a lot to us. Yeah. So the start line is in an unknown location somewhere in the Czech Republic. So when you sign up for the rally, you get sent the coordinates, and it was just in a field in the middle of nowhere. And the finish line is actually in Ulan-Ude in Russia, which is about 12,000 miles. So first of all, when we decided to do the rally, we were like, we need a route. So there's different ways you can go. You can go down through Europe, through Turkey, Azerbaijan, and you can get a ferry across the Caspian Sea and carry on that way. Or some people go north and they go up through like Ukraine and Russia and Kazakhstan. But we decided that we wanted to go through Iran. So that was the route that we chose. Now that we kind of decided our route, we needed a car.
So we needed something pretty reliable, you know, something to take us all the way across, maybe like a third of the world. It needed to be easy to get parts for and big enough for all 4 of our team to fit in. So obviously we chose a Fiat Panda. Meet Veranda Babes. So our car we bought from a guy for £500 in Weston-super-Mare, and he and she had no idea what they were about to embark on. So we had to choose our team, and this is our team: Will, Jess, Craig, and me, Amy. So we would be later known as Chocolate Teapot.
Team Chocolate Teapot.
Team Chocolate Teapot. Things didn't really go that well for us, as you'll soon find out. But choose wisely. If you're going to do this Mongol Rally, choose your team wisely, because you're going to be spending a lot of time in one car together. So the funniest thing about this picture is Will actually farted, and that picture made the local newspaper the very next day.
That's why we were all cracking up.
Yeah. So we decided, obviously, if you're going to do the rally, you need to have a decked out, pimped out ride. So this is what we did to Veranda Babes. We got a bunch of sponsors on board that would help fund the trip. We put all their logos on the car, and obviously got it wrapped in an orange camouflage. And if you can see in the picture also, we've got our mascot, who's called Andre 1000 BC. He's the little dinosaur on top. He was mechanical. He did actually, it's not bark, roar. He didn't bark. So yeah, that's our team, and that was our car.
And also the roof rack that we started out with is an IKEA drawer that was under my bed.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be the perfect roof rack, so that's what we started with.
We've also got a really heavy back box on the back, which we thought would be a great idea, but that turns out not to be also.
So we decided to leave about 2 weeks before the start date of the rally, and we were going to meet Will and Jess there because they had other commitments. So we thought, we'll take 2 weeks, we'll just cruise through Europe.
Yeah.
So we did a road trip through Belgium and through Germany, and we were just basically sightseeing, eating loads of foods and just soaking up the sun. It was great. Had loads of ice cream. We saw some German castles. And then we tried to be Instagrammers as well.
Tried to take some lovely photos.
And then when we actually got to Germany, somebody decided to put some beers on our roof rack, which was amazing.
Yeah, we thought, oh, they were littering and they just popped them on, but they were full. So I think they were for us, weren't they?
So as we got to Cologne, that's when we had our first problem, and this is when things went tits up, basically.
So the car started chugging, and obviously me and Craig know nothing about mechanics. We're not mechanical engineered in any way. So we ended up calling a garage. We had to push the car up a one-way street, and the mechanic told us, come and pick it up the next day. So it turned out that our fuel pump had gone, and he wanted to charge us €500 to fix it. Obviously, we were shocked.
That was my face as I reacted to the phone call.
We were just, fingers crossed it would be, not as expensive as that, but it was. So we met the guys in Prague, had a few bevies later, and then we made our way to the start line.
So when you get to this unknown location, there's like usually a theme. So the 2018 theme was kind of like Mad Max. It was incredible. It was like walking on a movie set. It was like huge cars stacked up. There was like mud wrestling pits. There was casinos and all the staff there like dressed up. So it feels like you're on a movie set. They have loads of events. There was Mongolian wrestling.
And fire
breathers.
Yeah.
And they had crossbows you could pose with for photos. It was mad.
It was a pretty amazing starting party.
So yeah, we basically just all had way too much beer, considering the next day we were going to have to start this rally. And woke up with stinking hangovers, and most of us were a bit angry. So day one, 500 cars set off, and we were off to a flying start. Literally the first highway we got to, our tents blew off the roof.
Little pop-up tents, so £10.
Yeah, if you're going to do the rally, then we would highly recommend pop-up tents. We had a team with us who had like a full-blown tent, and they would spend like half an hour every night like knocking up this tent, and we were just like,
yeah, just throw it. Yeah, it was fab.
But luckily Will spotted the tents, and as they blew off the roof, we pulled the car over and saved them.
Yeah.
And then as we were going through Slovakia, we basically got lost, and then we drove into the night, and we nearly hit a deer. So I literally slammed the brakes on. This deer came out of nowhere in the pitch black. Luckily, I didn't hit it.
Yeah, our hearts were racing. Imagine we did hit it though. I would have cried, and it would have been a terrible start.
Yeah, probably would have been the end of the rally for us. So we ended up making our way down to Budapest in Hungary, which is where we started racking up the parking tickets. We got 3 in 2 days.
In the one spot, yeah, fantastic.
I think the car's registered to Aimee's name, so she can probably never drive in Budapest again.
My mum's still on about it to this day.
But yeah, we went to like the thermal spas, and like most of Europe was like reasonably easy, but we still managed to get in trouble, and things still went wrong. So we ended up in like a bed bug ridden hostel after that as well, just to top it off.
Cheap. So yeah, what do you expect?
And then when we got to Serbia, Will decided to park the car over a tram line, and the tram actually smashed into our cargo box and took all the back lights off it.
The sound was enormous.
We were in the car. We were like, "There's not much drama happening," and then literally it's like a huge catastrophic bang and crash.
Yeah.
And then the tram stopped, and there's about 500 people looking at us.
Yeah, luckily there wasn't that much damage, and we made our way through into Romania, which was incredible. Like I don't think we'd done so much research to know what it looked like, but we know we wanted to do the Transfăgărășan, if that's how you say it, that road, which is like an amazing mountain cross with like deep valleys, and you just go through it, and there's like cows and waterfalls and goats, and it's incredibly scenic, beautiful. And we also heard that there was bears in Romania. We didn't quite believe it, but we had seen other people's pictures that were on the rally, and they'd bumped into bears, so we were hoping for it. Tensions were quite high in the car at this time. We'd been driving for about 4 or 5 days, and we finally managed to see a bear, which just boosted the whole team's morale. We were buzzing.
It was incredible. And we also found like a waterfall that we just all got in and had a dip.
It was freezing.
The bears topped it off, didn't they? They were amazing.
But then we slowly realised that, we're camping tonight, and we're not camping too far away from where we saw the bear. So we got there, we set up our tents, and then around 1 o'clock in the morning, all of the local people that were camping set off beer bangers, which is just like dynamite. It just goes through your soul. So like boom, boom, and obviously we're in a valley, so it just echoed. So yeah, needless to say, we didn't get much sleep that night.
So then our next nightmare happened in Bulgaria. So as soon as we crossed the border, we realized that we didn't have a vignette, or we didn't know we needed a vignette.
Yeah.
And so we got pulled over by this copper, and it was all a bit sus. Will was driving at the time, and he was like, have you got a vignette? And he ended up saying, oh, I'm going to take your license unless you pay this money. And he took Will out of the car, and he was like all a bit sketchy, and he said, Will was like, is there any way out of this? And he lifted up a little flap in his car, and he was like, put the money here. So it was only $30, which was the only bribe we paid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we paid him the $30, and Will got back in the car, and then we kept going.
We were just so surprised by it in Europe, though. Like, it happened so soon. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, straight off the bat. And then again, the theme here is we would drive a lot. It would get dark, and then we would be like, we haven't got anywhere to sleep. So we ended up in a campsite. We got there when it was pitch black, and it was a thunderstorm rolling in. And then this guy was like, oh, just pitch your tent here. And then literally an hour later, it was torrential rain. And our tent ended up in about 2 foot's worth of rainwater.
And it wasn't waterproof at all, £10.
So it just floated away, and it took our shoes with it and everything. So we ended up sleeping in the car that night. And again, the tension was just building up in the team.
Lack of sleep is the build-up of tension, for sure. So as we made our way then through into Turkey, we knew that it was a bit naughty to take a drone in. They didn't really like it. So we tried to stash it behind our CD player, which Craig had installed about 3 days earlier, which I was quite happy about because you could just pull it out. You didn't do a very good job. We had our first big team fight there, which wasn't great, was it? Nah. Will got the brunt of it just for being moody, but it needed to happen, I think. So everyone got something off their chest. As we made our way into Turkey, we experienced the death of Andre 1000 BC. We drove under a really low bridge, and basically he didn't make it.
Yeah. It was my fault. I was kind of watching the car as it was going under. I was like, yeah, you've got loads of room.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just got jammed, and we were like, oh no. It
was pretty intense, and there was a massive queue of Turkish guys like just behind us, just shouting and
smoking really violently, like
giving us really bad dirty looks. So a guy actually ended up kicking Andre in the head, and we just pushed through with it. You know, our roof rack did come off a little bit, but we just had to go.
I wrecked my drawer. I was fuming.
But the next day, then we had a 6 a.m. start and headed to Cappadocia, which was incredible. I mean, I hate getting up really early, but I would do it again for this scene. It was amazing. If you haven't been, highly recommend it. We ended up going up the Turkish mountains, which I didn't know Turkey would be so mountainous. We pushed Veranda Babes up for about 4 hours because she wouldn't make it herself, which was incredibly mentally and physically draining in 38-degree heat. So because of this, we were kind of behind on time. So we had to fast track through Georgia and Armenia because we had to meet our convoy to go through Iran.
So we met our Iran convoy, and the reason we had to have a guide to go through Iran, and the reason is because we're from the UK. I don't think they kind of trust you to go through on your own in case you're a spy or something like that. So we had a WhatsApp group, we set up this whole convoy, and so we had like 6 cars of people, and we had a guide called Rashid, who was literally the nicest guy ever. And because Iran had been kind of vilified in the media and things like that, and everybody we told who said we're going to go to Iran, they were like, oh my God, that's crazy.
Couldn't believe it, yeah.
But it was so far from what people had told us it would be like. Everybody was so nice. The welcome was just incredible. Like, the police would pull us over to have a chat. We met loads of locals that just wanted to chat to us, and they were so happy we were there. Yeah, loads of selfies. People were putting signs in their windows saying "Welcome to Iran."
We felt like celebrities, didn't we?
It was unbelievable.
It was
honestly.
Amazing.
And then there was actually a journalist who pulled us over, and she said she was so proud of us for coming to her country, and she was so happy that we were there. She wanted us to all go to her house, and she was going to cook for us, but we were pressed for time, so we couldn't.
Yeah.
She ended up giving us like this huge pile of bread, which we shared out.
Yeah, it was amazing.
But yeah, they were just, the people of Iran were just super lovely. And this is our guide, Rashid.
Yeah.
He was the most flamboyant, like enthusiastic guy. He was so knowledgeable about Iran. And yeah, he was just really lovely, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the funniest thing ever. So the boys ended up breaking down, and a random guy just stopped on the side of the road, took a look at the car, and ended up giving the boys a piece of his fuel line out of his car, just chopped it off and put it in for them. And we couldn't believe it. Like, they tried to give him money to pay him for everything, and he wouldn't accept it. So the guys they offered him a plastic coffee cup, and he was over the moon, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he was so happy.
So happy about it.
But it was just so kind. He just pulled over and just out of, he didn't even know us, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll fix your car." And then it was amazing.
Yeah. And we met some lovely women that I asked about the hijabs, because when we got into Iran, me and Jess had to wear the full Iranian hijab and long sleeves, long legs. So it was really, really boiling, and it was just lovely to meet the women from different cultures and different countries and get their view on things. And it was just so eye-opening because of how Iran has been portrayed in the media, and we were loving it, weren't we? Because it was so different and lovely.
It was like when you think something's gonna be terrifying, you get there and it's like complete opposite. It was just incredible. We loved it.
So we visited some mosques and palaces and markets full of Iranian hijabs, and lovely things that I could buy.
So the next place we visited was Turkmenistan, which for me was one of the most fascinating places we went on the rally. It's really hard to get into as well, unless you are doing something like the rally where you can kind of get a free pass. But it's full of like huge white marble buildings that are pristine. There's a bunch of buildings that are in the Guinness World Records because the dictator's like obsessed with getting records.
Yeah.
There's like a giant Ferris wheel. They ended up opening the Ferris wheel just for us when we were there, and it was that one in the picture there.
Yeah, the circular, that's the Ferris wheel.
And there was like 5-lane highways with no cars on them. The city was immaculate, basically.
Yeah.
And there was people cutting the grass with scissors, but you kind of felt like you were always being watched. Like when we got there, they gave us a tracker, and we had to plug it into the car so that they knew where we were.
Yeah.
And when we crossed the border, we were waiting for our convoy, and we stopped the car, and they were like, there was guys in turrets, and they came over. There was a government car, and they were like, "You need to keep going."
Yeah, keep moving.
So it was very eerie, but it was really cool. I loved Turkmenistan.
Yeah.
So Ashgabat, especially. So the reason we wanted to go there, one of the main reasons, was because we were going to the Darvaza crater. So we'd heard it's quite tough to get there because it's like super dusty roads.
It's kind of like desert, isn't it? It's all sand.
Yeah, and so it was basically about 12 hours of us driving, breaking down, pushing each other, digging each other out. It usually takes about a day to get there, and it's about maybe 10 kilometers.
So what is the Darvaza crater?
So the Darvaza crater, it's a huge, it used to be a gas reserve, and it was burning. There was a gas leak. So scientists at the time decided that the best way to get rid of it was just to light it on fire. And like 30, 40 years later, it's still burning.
Yeah.
So it looks like a meteor has hit the ground. And it's just a big burning fire pit. So it's nicknamed the Gates of Hell.
Yeah.
And it was incredible to see. And after all the hard work of everyone helping each other out to get there, it was totally worth it, wasn't it?
Yeah, we ended up camping there, and just getting to know our group more. There was more Mongol Rally cars there as well. It was just such a nice place to be, and a great team, and it was quiet, but just heard the sound of the burning. It was amazing. And the next day we crossed into Uzbekistan. So
this was the start of like the terrible roads. So actually driving from the crater onwards, it was really bad. So we ended up breaking down in Nukas. And Nukas, we all had a saying about Nukas, which was just like, basically, we hate it.
Yeah.
Because everything went wrong. So we needed a new piston for the car, just to add to the breakdowns. And we were told it would take 3 days to fix it. And that's when we met the Italians. So this is Lorenzo and Riccardo, who became our saviors, who ended up giving us lifts everywhere whilst our car was getting towed. And we decided that we were going to do the Pamia Highway. So our car had broken down. We were like, let's get it fixed. And everybody else was going the Pamia Highway route.
Yeah.
We originally were going to go up through Kazakhstan and through Russia. But the guys are like, come with us, it'd be way more interesting. So we had to prep the car.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting it raised 5 inches. We got new tires and shocks. And as this was happening, we decided to have a house party in Newcastle.
Yeah.
And a few days later, I just got super ill and ended up in hospital. So it was basically like someone's living room. The lady had gold teeth. She was lovely, and she put me on a drip. And a couple of hours later, I was good to go.
Felt great.
Yeah.
So the car also got fixed the night that Craig was fixed. And the next morning we crossed into Tajikistan. So we didn't really explain what the Pamia Highway is. It's basically a mountainous road all through the stands.
Yeah.
And it goes up to about 4,500 meters high. So I think the reason why we weren't sure if we wanted to do it is because I was afraid of altitude sickness, but we'll get on to that. So the welcome into Tajikistan was amazing. As you can see there was kids running past the car, giving us high fives. Not many people lived there, but there were loads of sheep and goats on the roads with their shepherds. There was massive cliff drop-offs, and Afghanistan was just the border to the right of us.
That was crazy because we popped a tire at one point, and I was like fuming because I felt so annoyed at myself for popping it. But as we were changing the tire, it was just a huge brown river, and then you could just see Afghanistan. There was people in Afghanistan just waving to us. So it was just like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So far removed.
So we ended up that night sleeping in somebody's restaurant for £2 a night, including food. There was loads of flies there, so once again we didn't really get that much sleep. The next morning we carried on, and the villagers came out and gave us some eggs. Just gave us some. We were so happy, weren't we?
Yeah.
They were so kind.
Everybody on the highway, all the villagers and everything, they were super friendly.
Yeah.
Loads of like goat herders and stuff, and every time we got stuck, we'd ask for help, and they'd try in sign language to point us in the right direction.
Yeah. So we kept climbing the highway. We didn't really plan the route, so we didn't really plan, we'll get this high and then we'll sleep, and then we'll try and get over the top and sleep again. This is what it looked like. It was like Mars. It's like being on Mars. And then eventually we bumped into a double-decker bus that actually took off at the same time as us on the rally, and they'd got further than us. So they'd taken this double-decker bus on the Pamia Highway, which is unheard of.
And it was like the drives were like, the roads are so narrow and the drop-offs were huge.
Yeah.
And so they were having to swing this bus out over the river and come back in.
I don't know how they did it.
And the roads ended up going like this. Madness.
Yeah. So we ended up sleeping at like 3,200 meters, which is really high. I started feeling sickness. We got to our hotel really late. And I was like, there's got to be a bucket around here somewhere. I didn't end up being sick. But in the morning then, everyone was feeling it. And the lady of the hostel prepared our shower, which looked a bit like this. It was a bit crazy because you just had to like warm up all the water, put it in, and you would just wash yourself. But
it was so nice.
I can't remember the last time we had a shower.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. It just felt amazing.
So next up, we headed into Kyrgyzstan.
Go a bit faster. We're running out of time.
And we had some dodgy guards who tried to scam us with a piece of paper they said that we didn't have. Basically, it was just us then making tracks because we were because of the breakdowns, we were trying to make up some time.
Yeah.
So we crossed over into Kazakhstan then, which was stunning, and we ended up on our donut tire, which took us for miles and miles.
I think we were on it for about 100 miles, and we were like, we need to get a new tire. But we were a big hit with the police in Kazakhstan. We got pulled over 3 times in a day, not for any reason. Kazakhstan was beautiful though. I really didn't expect it to look like that. Had big blue lakes with huge pine trees. It kind of looked a bit like Canada. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But there was no border between Kazakhstan and Mongolia, so we had to use our first Russian visa to go in.
So yeah, after all the terrible roads, it was so nice to get on clean tarmac. So we flew through Russia, and then we ended up at the border of Mongolia. Everyone was just so buzzing because it's the Mongol Rally. It used to finish in Mongolia until they changed the end line. But so yeah, to get there was just like, we felt accomplished enough just to get there. So the landscape was unbelievable. There was incredible eagles, and there was camels and all these goats again, and just the most incredible scenery. And there was no people for miles and miles. Yeah,
Mongolia is massive, and only half of the country was tarmacked. So the other half, it would be like really bad, dusty roads that we'd have to go through. So it did take an awfully long time. And obviously the inevitable happened. We ended up breaking down.
So we've broken down before,
Of course.
but this one just didn't feel good. It sounded like, when you turned it on, it sounded like a washing machine full of cutlery.
Yeah.
So we towed her miles to this garage. And this is the best part about being in a convoy. Like, whenever we broke down, the boys are there. They brought a tow bar. We didn't even have a tow bar
We
with
had
us.
nothing.
We had no tools.
We had a dinosaur.
Yeah. So when we got to the mechanic, he like had a look at it, and about half an hour later, he just came out and just went. And as soon as we saw the X, we were like,
no.
"This is bad news."
Yeah.
So we ended up having to put it on a truck, and we had to ship it to Ulaanbaatar, which is basically the other side of Mongolia. And like, spirits were super low. I was gutted. I felt like we let our sponsors down. I was so annoyed that we couldn't drive the car over the finish line.
Yeah.
But once again, being part of the convoy, everybody just lifted our spirits. And again, we got saved by Lorenzo and Ricardo. We got in their car and had a sing along.
What did they have? A Micra? It was tiny.
Yeah.
We were just
No,
a
it
bit
wasn't
like
a
this.
Micra. It was an Italian car.
It was tinsy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And yeah, we ended up camping in the desert that night.
Which was incredible.
And there was like the most stars we've ever seen, because there's no light pollution in Mongolia. So it was just like stunning. And then we walk up to about 1,000 goats in the desert.
I said it was like off a film. You know, when an army comes over the hill, all of these goats just came and I was like, what is that? It was amazing. And we were just, the spirits had been lifted. We were back on track. We realised, you know, where we were, who we were with, and we just, we were ready to get back on the road.
So yeah, we made our way then to Ulaanbaatar, just seeing the sights. We would just stop off, play football, and just crack jokes, and it was just so much fun.
Incredible.
And then we ended up in Ulaanbaatar with the team.
Where Veranda Babes was going to meet us.
So basically, we were in Ulaanbaatar, and we were supposed to be picking up the car, and the guy was so late dropping it off, and we just trusted him to drop it off. He ended up turning up about 2 hours.
2 a.m.
Sorry, 2 a.m. So we had 2 days to do nearly 400 miles with the border crossing.
Yeah.
But luckily, the last border we needed to cross was 24 hours. So we had to get there because the finish line was actually closing and we were going to miss it.
Yeah.
So the plan was pick up the car and just see what happens.
Hope for the best. Just get towed as far as possible, basically.
So the first half of the tow was from 2 a.m. onwards. The crazy thing was, when the car got dropped off, I thought, I'll just turn it on and see what happens. And it actually came back to life.
Started.
And I managed to drive it for about 4 or 5 miles, and then it just conked out.
Just dead, yeah.
Just like anything with King in it, if you watch our channel, we say that we do things wrong so you don't have to. Everything went wrong.
Yeah.
Aimee had a meltdown in the first 10 minutes, got really anxious and travel sick, and basically just had to go to sleep. The tow bar broke. We ended up the boys popped 2 tires on the car that was towing us. Everything went wrong. But we just kept pushing on. The tow bar broke. We fixed the tow bar. We kept going. The tires popped. We ended up Aiden smashed one of the tires in, and it just came back, and they inflated it. And then we ended up crossing the border at 8 a.m. After 5 hours at the Russian border. So we got there and they literally checked every single bag, every pocket. They emptied the whole car, which is not what we needed.
Yeah.
And Ian, who was in our convoy, had driven all the way back from Ulan-Ude to pick us up. And he towed us about 60 miles an hour through the night. And we were about 4 foot away in the pitch black. Yeah, because the
tow bar broke, so we had to make it shorter. It was so dangerous. It really was.
Yeah. So we ended up arriving at 2 a.m. At the party.
Yeah. The finishing party where everybody was.
Yeah.
All of the people we'd seen on the road, they were all there. Everyone was already smashed. Obviously, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. We were just knackered. We really hoped we'd get there in a better time so that we could have had a wash and really gone and enjoyed ourselves. But we got there, we were like, hi, bye. And we literally went to bed.
Yeah, so I think we skipped over the lack of sleep we had. So we left at 2 a.m. and we got there like 48 hours later. So no one had slept for 2 days.
It was mad.
But yeah, the next day then, we managed to get there in time. So we ended up crossing the finish line.
This was incredible.
With all of our friends. And the top photo there, you can just see that the last part of it is when the guys, we tried to push the car up as the 3 of us. Will actually left from Ulaanbaatar to fly to see his girlfriend. Yeah. So we ended up me, Aimee and Jess, and we tried to pull the car on our own. and the whole convoy had to jump in because we couldn't get it up the ramp.
It was a real tear-jerking moment, like, as everybody had helped us so much, and they just helped us that final push to get the car onto the stage. It was amazing.
And that was just a sign of like everything, the camaraderie. That was the best part of the rally. It wasn't, at the beginning, we weren't sure about convoying, but as soon as we were with everybody, it was so amazing. Like, everybody helped each other. If one day someone was down, you know, people would pick each other up and be like, don't worry, mate, let's keep going.
Yeah.
People wanted to quit and go home. They're like, I'm done, I'm going home.
It was really hard. Like, we don't put that across enough, but it was so tough because me and Craig are vegan. So trying to eat vegan food in most of those countries is just unheard of.
Yeah.
And then physically pushing yourself with no food is so tiring. It's such a battle.
You end up living on petrol station snacks.
Yeah.
So the total time from when we left home to get into the finish line was 72 days. We ended up doing 13,000 miles.
So it was 21 countries that we went through with 40 odd petrol stops.
We ended up with 4 parking tickets, 10 police stops.
And it was just the best trip we've ever done and will ever done. We talk about it every single day, and we're still the best of friends with our convoy. We meet them every New Year's Eve, and we're doing loads of quizzes with them at the moment, aren't we? Online.
It is class. It is the best trip we've ever done, and it was the first proper adventure. We travelled a lot before, but this was the first like challenge overland, and it was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, we ended up making a 30-part series for our YouTube channel, but we broke it down into a 1.5 hour documentary, and that is over on our YouTube channel if you want to go and watch it, which we highly recommend, and we recommend signing up for next year's rally as well. Also,
we ended up raising £500 for Cool Earth, which is the charity of the adventurous who run the race.
Yeah.
And we raised £2.5 grand for both of our charities, Click Sergeant, which is a cancer charity that did loads for Aimee when she went through cancer.
Yeah.
And Big Moose, which is a local charity as well. We do a lot for homeless people and mental health. So yeah,
that's us.
That's the story.
That's our challenge.
Right, so that was King Nick, Craig and Aimee doing their little talk about the Mongol Rally. Awesome presentation. I was surprised to hear they'd never really presented like that before, because I thought they did a really good job, and they've done loads of crazy stuff. Driving the length of India in a rickshaw, going across on the Mongol Rally. At the moment, mate, they're doing up a bus called Custard, and they're turning it into their home on wheels. They do a lot of stuff about that on Instagram. So if you're into bus life, van life kind of stuff, adventures with big vehicles that you can live in, check out their Instagram, Kinging It. It's pretty cool stuff. So yeah, thanks Craig and Aimee for coming on. That was good fun. Who we got next week?
Next week, mate, we're going to go to the Sunday evening of the Armchair Adventure Festival, and we're going to bring back Inga Solheim. So for those who don't know, Inga is more of a sort of a land adventurer by walking. He does a lot of sort of stuff in the sort of the North and South Pole. Really quite impressive stuff. He's taken an excessive amount of people.
Is that him now, mate?
No.
Do you want to check?
No, it's sorry. He takes an excessive amount of people to the North and South Pole. It's one that you really don't want to miss, actually. Has anyone seen Harry's Heroes? Because he was on Harry's Heroes with Prince Harry. He doesn't like to mention it because he thinks, there's much more impressive things that people can look at. But we had a really interesting chat, actually, a really deep, meaningful chat on the Sunday night of the Armchair Adventure Festival that I think you're going to thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
Sorry,
he's just a humble guy, you know. Yeah. It's not that he don't want to mention it. He thinks it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It just doesn't name drop Harry a lot. But it was a really good talk. Inga does some crazy stuff. He invited us to go and stay with him and explore the mountains. So yeah, we're going to do that one day. And I just thought I'd mention that so he remembers when he's watching this. So thanks, Inga. We'll be taking you up on that. And that's it, mate. So you can go and watch Inga now on our Patreon page. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's £1 a month. It's gone up from $1 a month because they let us charge in UK GBP, and we like the Queen's English, mate. So it's now £1 a month. It's even more money for the same amount of content, which we regularly discuss with you guys, is not much. So check it out. I think it's worth it. And we'll see you next week for some more Armchair Adventure content.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah? Yeah, we will. Okay. Bye.
Bye.